Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Oh, I missed this shit. Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of In the Mind of Dane. That boy Dane back to you guys again with another one. What's good, y'all? It's been 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks. Oh, I missed this. I feel like I got some new yaps, man. Oh my goodness. I feel so good to be back. I know I was gone, man. My fault. I'm gonna just be honest with y'all. Y'all know I keep it 100% on here. Your boy, I probably have some type of seasonal or whatever type of depression. So sometimes I can bed rot really bad, and it really becomes very, very difficult and challenging for me to get up and do things. And I'm sorry, like it really becomes difficult for me to turn on the mic and pod, but I am back, and I'm trying to get back on, get back on the grind and whatever, it's pushed through. But I feel good, man. I feel great. I'm happy to be back. I feel rejuvenated. I feel amazing. These past 2 weeks, man, y'all get a 2 week recap. I'm gonna try to yap as much as I can. I feel like I owe y'all at least like an hour and some change, at least an hour and some change. Shit, I honestly would try to push it for 2 hours, but I have nobody to bounce off of for conversation. So it's gonna be just me, y'all. But we here, man. We here. Let's get into it. Let's past 2 weeks. So past 2 weeks, what has been going on? So I hooped about 2 weeks ago, and I sprained my fucking ankle, bro. I have sprained my ankle a couple of times playing basketball in my life. And I'm telling you, and I talked to this about my coworkers and just people in general, you sprain your ankle or any part of your body, whether you sprain your thumb, your wrist, it feels like once you sprain it once, bro, it's never the same. I don't know what happens, but it's never the same. So I was able to kind of bounce back from it a little quicker. That weekend, I think, was like a really nice weekend outside. So my man Josh, shout out to Josh, we had a little cookout. Man, he was throwing down on that grill, man. Nigga was eating good, man. Nigga was eating good. So it was nice to do that. Hung out with my brothers in the past 2 weeks. My little brother, he came up, and my older brother, he came up, and I hung out with them separately, and we just had really dope conversation. It's really dope to talk to my older brother and my little brother, just about where they at in life and bounce ideas off of them, and they bounce ideas off of me. And it's great to have those conversations. I feel like for me, one thing I've been trying to do a lot more of, and it is a topic on the conversation list tonight, is just trying to be more open and vulnerable with people, especially when I'm going through things, just because it's just important to have people to open up to and have that community. So it's been dope to like have that conversation with my brothers. That was super duper fun. What else? I seen two new movies. I seen Scream 7 and I seen Hoppers. Scream 7 was my first time ever seeing a Scream movie, so I didn't really have much of an expectation going into it. I actually found it to be pretty entertaining. I thought the kills were interesting and entertaining. I feel like the comedic relief was pretty funny. I just didn't take the movie too seriously, but I see people ripping that movie to shreds. So maybe if I had just watched the previous ones, or maybe if I was more tied to the storylines and characters, maybe I would have been more invested. I kind of heard something like one of the main actors from the last Scream movie, she was supposed to come back, and I think she had posted like Free Palestine or something, and then they basically like took her off the movie, and then Jenna Ortega said, well, if y'all taking her off, you might as well take me off too, because I ain't coming back. So they had to completely pivot the storyline or whatever. So I mean, for me, as somebody who was low investment into the story, I feel like for me, Scream 7 was kind of just like a one-off like horror film I've seen, and I'm just like, pretty entertaining. Can't be too mad. Hoppers, on the other hand, I have been enjoying kid movies recently. I do feel like the kid movie industry, especially even just from some of the trailers, they kind of getting some good movies. I thought Go was great, and I thought Hoppers was pretty good too, man. I thought it was a really dope movie. I kind of feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but recently they be putting some trauma in these kid movies, man. Like there be some trauma in these kid movies, dog. You know what I'm saying? And they be really some real life things. But I think for me, the beauty of Hoppers was, I think it spoke to the beauty of organizing, especially in a community for social issues. It was really dope to really see that, and I think it really will inspire children to really think about that as they grow older, especially where there's probably going to get older and they're going to have emotional ties to certain social issues, and seeing, you know, seeing an example, even if it's in cartoon form, in a way that I think that they can understand, of the beauty of organizing and getting together and rallying together to, you know, for a cause. I think it will motivate children, and just even any other hidden messages and themes that was in there that I think the kids can pick up from, I thought was really, really dope. But that's it for these past 2 weeks, man. And I'm trying to remember, is there anything else that's been going on? You know, of course, new music, NFL free agency, the NBA's been heating up. We got all that on the docket. Yeah, man. What else, man? Started journaling. I feel like this is going to kind of tie into, because I finished reading The Will to Change by Bell's Hook. I finished reading that book, and there's definitely some takeaways from that book I definitely want to talk about, because I feel like now, you know, even though this might not be 1,000 listeners listening to this thing, there's a lot of things I want to talk about in terms of just what I'm learning, especially through reading and research and whatever, that I feel like the information I'm learning is things I want to pass on to people, because I feel like it would just make us overall better human beings. It would lessen suffering for people, especially the fellas. And I just think if as a society we normalize some of the things that I'm trying to learn a lot more of, and seeing it actually be proven with research and through Black literature and all these things, it would just put society in a better direction. So we definitely got that coming up. But besides that, man, let's get into the topics for this episode, bro. I'm so excited to be back and podding again, man. It feels like it's been so long. Let's get it. All right, so boom, let's start off with it. Bruno Mars dropped an album, The Romantic. This is really my first Bruno Mars album listened to beginning to end, honestly. I don't know what made me check it out. My coworker Jock was telling me, yo, you really got to check this album out. It is really, really good. You know, because I know she's going to the concert and she's been trying to convince me to go. So I said, all right, I'm going to give this album a shot. And I got to admit, this album is amazing. I feel like Bruno Mars, I don't want to say he's the most original, but I feel like he draws a lot from his inspirations. And I think he does a really good job at it. And also trying to put his own spin on it. I really got a lot of songs out of it. I think the album title, The Romantic, is a fitting title. Is a lot of themes about love and, you know, just being romantic in general. It started off with Risk It All. I thought that was a perfect opener. It had a Latin feel to it. It just sets the tone off right on this album. It's like it drops you right into what the album is about for real. Then we get to Cha Cha Cha. I thought that was a great record there. Another dancing kind of Latin vibe to it. I think honestly at this point probably is one of my least favorite songs, just because I thought the single was cool, but now hearing an album, there's so many better songs. God Was Showing Off, that's probably my favorite track. I think even with me, like I sometimes listen to it and like on some no gay shit, I be listening to that joint, and it's almost like I be telling myself that, like, man, God was showing off when he made me. It's just a feel good song, you know, just emphasizing beauty, and it was so good. And the way he sung it was super dope. Why You Wanna Fight, I feel like that was almost like some Marvin Gaye shit. Like, just talking about why you wanna fight, we can just make love. Like, that don't sound like some shit Marvin Gaye would say. That sounded smack like some Marvin Gaye joint. Another one of my favorite joints, I love the way he ended it with Dance With Me, a beautiful song. Especially the way he was singing it towards the end. He's a great vocalist. I really enjoyed the Bruno Mars album. I honestly did. I think a lot of people have this complaint where they feel like he is very much kind of like almost stuck in past decades. And I 100% can see that. I definitely do feel like that is very prevalent, that he does draw a lot from his inspirations. But I will say this. I think in terms of just good, feel good music, and I feel like somebody brought this point up when they talked about Olivia Dean, was that Olivia Dean has music that I think just feels good. It's feel good music. You can play it in a plethora of settings and it will hit. And Bruno Mars is kind of the same way. Like I when I listened to this album, I just heard 9 great songs kind of covering the topic of love, a relationship, whether there is throwing some heartbreak into it. Talk about how beautiful your girl is, how you would risk it all for her, how you want one more dance to try to see if the old feelings would spark up again. Just give me one more dance. Like, he's a yearner, you know what I mean? And he just does such a great job on it with the album. I think the music, the production on it, it is absolutely A1. So I get it. I think people's critiques of the album isn't about the music itself. It's just because it feels like, damn, we haven't really got nothing new from Bruno. So maybe that does affect my rating of it, because I don't listen to a lot of Bruno Mars. Like, I've never listened to an album of his. Like, of course, I know the big hits like Locked Out of Heaven, Treasure. That's what I like. Of course, I know his biggest records to date, Grenade, But for an album, I don't feel like, I just feel like, for me, I just look at the album as like kind of like a one-off thing. And for me, because like I said, this is my first one, I just have this thing where I'm like, hey, I just heard 9 tracks of good music. Like, legit good music, great production, absolutely outstanding production. He's an amazing singer. I thought the songwriting on here was really, really good. I just don't have many complaints about the musicality of the album. And I feel like for Bruno Mars, that's all I was kind of there for, was just hearing good music. And for 9 tracks, that's what he gave us. I really enjoyed it, So that's it, man. So if y'all haven't checked it out, I definitely would highly recommend. I think he killed that shit 100%. Next topic, man. Staying in music for a little bit. Yeat is dropping A Dangerous Life. It looks like a double disc on March 27th. Kind of just wanted to talk about what my expectation is for the album. He dropped a single. It's not my favorite Yeat single. Probably one of my least favorite Yeat singles or tracks just in general. I really did not love that one, but I'm always hold high hope for Yeat. I think when it comes to albums, he always has delivered for me. I'm very curious to see what he's going to do with it. I feel like he's probably taken at least the most effort that I can think of for this album in terms of just wait time and how long he's been promoting it. I seen him at the Trailblazers game. He looked really cool there, promoting it. So I really am excited to see what he's going to do with this album. I really want to see what he's going to do sonically. I think he just has very classic sounds and ad-libs that he just pulls off sometimes, and I'm like, okay, this is just classic Yeat. So of course, I want him to work. I want to hear that Benny X tag. I want to see what the features. I think Drake could be on here. I don't know if he dropped features by the time I'm doing this episode or not, but I just have high expectations for Yeat. I feel like he's starting to come around in more circles where people are starting to accept who he is and his sound. And even if people kind of view him like, I think how people used to view Young Thug, where it was almost like a guilty pleasure, I feel like it's so much more of a W than what it was when I was such a fan of him 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like 5 years ago or 4 years ago, or even, I'll even say 3 years ago, it was almost like listening to, if you were a Yeat fan, it felt like you either liked him or you hated him. You know what I mean? Like, people would look at you like you kind of like this type of sound of rap. And now I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, man, he's just really good. Like, he's just a very talented artist in general that knows how to use his voice as an instrument and has really good production. Sorry, y'all. So, with all that being said, I think he's just the leader of the lane that he's in. He's a veteran now. He's been in the game now for a minute. He's given us so much music that I feel like at this point in his career, I don't really feel like there's not as much to prove. I do think that there's probably more eyes on him probably than before, because it's not just Yeat fans. I think there's just a general interest in hip hop now for Yeat. So I think he's going to deliver. I think he's going to deliver. If I have to give him any, I guess, advice, like let's say Yeat was listening, what would I do? I would just say stick to your strengths. I would say I hope he sticks to his strengths. I hope he works with the people that I think can produce a great sound for him. Even if he does do something different, even when he stepped completely different with 2093, I feel like that was probably his most well received album was 2093. So don't be afraid to take risk. I hope he takes risk on this album sonically. and just delivers. I really feel like I'm really excited for Yeat. He's really been pushing this album. I feel like probably more than I witnessed him doing, particular with any of his other work. So hopefully this album is good. I have high hopes. Like I said, I feel like he hasn't missed yet. So it would be really interesting to see, how this album comes about, and just what he's going to do with it. I really am excited. All right, let's get into this one. This one's kind of a deeper topic I want to talk about, and I feel like this is the one I'm most excited to talk about, which is I finished reading The Will to Change by Bell Hooks, and it was a book basically talking about how patriarchal thinking and just patriarchy in general has done way more harm than it has done good, and we should probably work to unlearn that in developing a newer way in how we think about it. And I brought this to the pod because as somebody who has dated before and just having my own personal testimony, I have a father who I would say was anti-patriarchal in the sense of my dad has always allowed me and my siblings, even, specifically my brothers, to be in touch with with our emotions. I grew up a crybaby, like in general. Like I was a crier when I was a kid. And I remember growing older and I had my struggles with dating, with women, with masculinity in general. Then I hear about the red pill, and it definitely taught me how to close off a lot more. It closed me off a lot more. It led me to not want to be as vulnerable or as open with things I was going through because that wasn't quote unquote masculine. And even when I got out of red pill thinking, there was still this gender role that I was still trying to uphold, which was you have to be tough, a leader, blah, 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 blah. And not show emotions, don't open up, boom, 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 boom. And now, after reading that book, I would say the one thing I wanted to just kind of bring to the pod and kind of just like spread as a message for everybody is just, especially for the fellas out there, I think as of recently, I have been wanting to get in touch with my emotions a lot more. I've started journaling a lot more and writing my thoughts out, talking about how my day was. I'm being a lot more open to my friends in general and my family just about what I'm going through and how I'm feeling, especially in these past, like I said, in the past 2 weeks, I was really bed rotting just because I just was just super low in energy and motivation. And just even talking to my coworkers and everything just about what I have been going through. And reading the book, I just want to kind of bring up some points from the book. And just talking about how as men, or as a boy at one point in our life, some majority of us were told not to cry, not to open up, because that's not what men do. Men are natural born violent leaders and dominators. And unfortunately, guys, that could be further from the truth. We were taught to be that way. We were taught to be emotionless. We killed our inner child and our emotional self as we were growing up because we were told that's not what a man does, and we were being raised to be men. And it's caused a lot of men to suffer internally, and because they're fighting for such this dominance, because patriarchy says this is how we're going to reward you. You're going to be rewarded with sex and all these things, whatnot. Men have become so dominant in it to where, because of this thing, since men are so wanting to dominate, that's why we're seeing a lot of male violence among women, against women. The sexual violence, the physical violence, even emotional abuse is up because men are hurt. You know what I mean? And to really be loved as men, we have to open up. We have to be vulnerable. Your woman or just your inner circle you have to let them in to really receive love. They're supposed to be your support system. They're supposed to be who you can go to. Your girl is not your subordinate. She is your partner. She has great skills that could complement your skills, and you guys are supposed to work together. There shouldn't be a leader. You guys are partners. Um, and even for me, I would say, for me, it's been a lot easier of a transition to kind of open up and be more emotional and empathetic and being emotionally intelligent and understanding emotions a lot better, just because I kind of grew up that way. I feel like we all as boys, we came out the womb empathetic. We came out the womb in touch with our emotions, and we were taught to undo that, whereas women, that was supported, and I think men and women we're a lot more alike than we think. There's really not much difference in that. Women have great skills that men do. We just were brought up with these sexist gender traits that were attached to us, and we were taught this is what it's supposed to look like. So I say all this to say, man, like, start getting in touch with your emotions. Be vulnerable with your community. Be vulnerable with your friends, your family. If you're in a relationship, be vulnerable with your girl and open up to her. And don't think that you have to be this leader who has to do X, Y, and Z. This is your partner. Y'all are in this together. And, even if you got to get a journal and write out your feelings, we have to be able to do that, because that is really where true love resides at. True love resides in being your fully authentic self. I don't feel like for a lot of us, our full authentic self is we don't have emotions. That's not who we are. That's not who we are. It's the ability to feel and be open with it, because life is hard out here, my nigga. Like, life is hard. I can tell you straight up. Like, life is very difficult, and I'm somebody who I feel like every day is some shit, and having to try to thug it out, it's hard to do. You know what I mean? Because all you're doing is just letting it sit within you, and it's just going to boil over at some point. So, man, even if you gotta take baby steps, I'm not saying go tell everybody your personal business. Just have one friend to confide in. Then, just build yourself up. You start journaling. I started journaling because it allowed me to write out what I felt and just dump it all out. It didn't have to make sense. It didn't have to be grammatically correct. It didn't even have to be. It has to make sense to me because I'm writing out what it is. It's like a brain dump. Like, just dump this all out, write it out, so that you're able to articulate, understand, and make sense of it. And I feel like once we kind of get out of that and we get out of this patriarchal thinking of, as men, we are supposed to be these tough guys who show no emotion, and instead recognize that we're all emotional beings. We're all emotional beings. We were kicked out of that emotional part of ourselves to uphold a standard that has not led us to any success. That's why a lot of people are unhappy. Even women are unhappy because they feel like they're not getting the love that they deserve, or want, because there's no emotional connection there. Yeah, he pays the bills, or yeah, he does this, but that's it. And I just say all this to say, because I feel like I've been trying to lean on community a lot more. I've been trying to be community for a lot of other people, because it's important to be that. I'm in a place now where I just want to help out people wherever I can, because that's what life is all about, man. Like, when you are connecting with people and you're getting to know people and you're developing these relationships, it takes work to continue to it takes work to keep it up. It takes work to continue to build them. It takes work to maintain them. And I understand how hard life can be, and it does nobody no good to feel like, man, life is kicking my ass and I have nobody to talk to about it. I feel like there's For a lot of my guy friends, and I'm telling you guys just now, if you need a nigga to talk to, bro, hit me. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to listen, and I can empathize with you, and I have no judgment about how you're reacting to it. If you cry, bro, that is normal. You should, bro. It feels good to cry. It feels good to be able to do these things because it makes you a better person at the end of the day. And as for somebody who's been thugging it out for so long because I was trying to uphold this standard that was impossible for real, I'm really finding out like, man, like the people who I'm opening up to and being vulnerable with and whatever, this is really what true love feels like, to feel their support, hearing them check on me. And I really want to do the same for other people. And I've been trying to do it in a, if I have been doing a bad job for you, I'm sorry. I apologize on that. But I just don't want nobody to feel like they got to thug it out. To be emotional and to be vulnerable is what makes us human. So don't kill that part of yourself off. And if you have been, take baby steps, my niggas. Like, start to journal, start to really understand and get out what you're feeling inside and not bottle it in. And confide in people, man, for real. Like, try to unlearn this patriarchal thinking that this is what a man is. A man is all of these things. A man should be emotional in a way where they're able to empathize and understand their emotions and be able to communicate it, understand what they're feeling, and be there for somebody else. And for all the people out there that's listening that got kids, man, don't raise them to be quote unquote a man who they don't cry or they don't show emotions, man. Nah, bro. Like, they don't let them kill that version of themselves off, because it does more harm than good. And I really would recommend anybody to read The Will to Change by Bell Hooks. I really feel like there's so much knowledge in that book just from even a statistical standpoint of how we got to this point where we're seeing so much male violence against women. We're seeing all of these things happen, and it's going to take a team effort. And for the women out there that's listening, I know sometimes, even now, there's women out there who operate with a patriarchal thinking that men shouldn't do this, men should provide, men should do this and whatever. We have to, it's a collective effort. We have to provide for the fellas and the women. We have to provide a safe place for men to want to be open and feel safe to open up and do the work to unlearn and be vulnerable and, just grow their emotional intelligence. There has to be a safe place there, because I know it was kind of like a running conversation for a while. Like, oh, I opened up to my girl and now she doesn't respect me. Like, it shouldn't be like that. Men should also feel safe to open up just like women. And the ability to nurture and understand and empathize, that's not just a women trait. That trait is not exclusive to women, because, man, we had that. And we still do. We just got to find it and let it be known that it is okay to do that. So I say all these things, man. There's nothing, you can be everything that encompasses a man now in terms of being tough and being able to operate in a certain way when things are hard, but also have enough emotional intelligence to know, hey, I'm not feeling well and I should talk to somebody about it. And if I need to get a cry it out. I need to write out how I'm feeling. All of that is there, man. Like, don't get rid of this toxic masculine thing that tells you not to be emotional. I feel like a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders just from me being able to open up to people and feel real, genuine love. You know what I mean? Like, it feels great to really feel real, genuine love and care about me because people hear what I'm going through. I haven't cried in a little minute just because I haven't really felt like, really down to the dumps about anything. But I feel so much more secure in myself to even shed a tear. You know what I'm saying? Because we all need to. Life is very difficult. Like, the world is not in a good place right now, as we can see. Just with, we're already in a new war. Prices is going through the roof. Regular life is hard, and I just feel like the willingness to open up about our emotions and really talk about these things and open up is really what is community all about. So be able to do that, man. Try to work on that skill for the fellas out there. Really learn and get in touch with your emotions, and and open up to whoever you can trust to do it. Even if it's a therapist, bro. Like the therapist to me is a low risk investment. You are able, well, I would say low risk because you don't have the same fear of opening up to somebody and feeling like they're either going to use it against you or look at you different. You have a therapist who's not there to judge. They're there to listen. So baby steps, y'all. Baby steps. I wanted to pass that information on to you guys because I feel like love is such an important thing to spread out into the world. And really, I do start to believe, not just because I listen to What's Going On by Marvin Gaye almost daily. I just think love, in the spreading of love, just will get us so much further as a society because we're able to lean on each other. And if we're able to lean on each other and have community, we are able to get so much further and we can live happier and healthier lives rather than compared to being in isolation and not opening up and feeling like we have to toughen it up all the time. And all it's doing is just killing us. We're not happy. We feel miserable. We're depressed. We're taking drugs and alcohol to numb ourselves. I know I used to have a bad, like, I think at times, even for me, as somebody who smokes weed and everything like that, you know, I know there were times where I've used weed to numb, you know what I mean, rather than it being for me to relax and for fun or social use. That's why I've cut my weed usage back. You know, I used to be a daily weed, like, for real, and now I've cut it back to just doing it socially or if I need to relax or something, rather than it being used to I'm going through it and I need to get high to kind of escape. You know, being able to journal how I actually feel about things, whether it's my own personal trials and tribulations or just what's going on, or even new lessons I've learned. I've been opening up and journaling about the new mindsets I've been learning about that's helping me get through the day. You know, so I want to just help everybody try to live happier and healthier lives. And I feel like after reading that book, which I wrote, I would highly recommend you guys do, is just really just to be more open, man. Be more in tune with your emotions and really dig deep to unlearn that patriarchal thinking that I think has done so much harm for us. All right, let's get into another topic. Let's get into some basketball. Jayson Tatum returned. He's back on the court playing. First game back, I think he played the Mavericks. He didn't shoot too well, and he hasn't really shot absolutely fantastic since he's been back. But I will say it's good to see JT back on the floor. It's good to see Jayson Tatum back on the floor, hooping again. And I feel like when I'm watching him, he just looks like a player that has the skill set of a player that he was prior to his injury, but just working a way back because he hasn't played competitive, physical NBA basketball in almost 10 months. But I feel like as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, we're going to see that old Jayson Tatum return. Because he doesn't look like some role player. He just looks like a guy who is the best player or the second best player on this team, just kind of coming back from injury and working his way back. And I do think that, for me, I'm surprised that he's even looked as good as he has because, you know, you're in the thick of the season right now. You're in the last 20 games, you know, rough estimate 20 games of the season, and to come back off an Achilles tear in which I'm surprised you're back, just because I usually feel like whenever you injured your Achilles or tore your Achilles, I feel like I'm not looking for your return until literally whenever you injured it a year from now. He came back early. So to see that, and it's almost kind of feel like it's putting Boston right back in the title picture just because Jaylen Brown has held them up afloat for so long, and then you add the leader of the team back, and honestly, he's still working his way back, but he hasn't had to go through he hasn't gone through an 82 game stretch yet that probably has taken somewhat of a toll of his body. Right now, he's working probably through the mental aspect of coming back from his Achilles. Like, okay, can I make that same cut again? Can I still make the same moves? Can I explode the same way I once could? You know, so he's hurdling over a mental hurdle right now that I feel like, I don't know how long that's going to take every athlete, every injury. That mental hurdle is very different. But I say this to say that I'm super excited to see how good Boston's going to look. Because I think that for me, they look as they have just as good of a shot to make it out the East as anybody. I feel like the team that gives them probably the most trouble, in my opinion, is probably Detroit. A healthy Detroit, by the way. But I mean, I don't know. I just feel like they match up really well with a lot of teams. I feel like, a lot of people might still say the Knicks are in that picture, and I still think that they are. I just think when I watch the Knicks, they just aren't very feared because they have points of attack that they have areas that a team can attack. If you're the Celtics or just any team in general, we can probably attack Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And just getting them into as many actions as possible will open up our offense. And for the Knicks, you're looking at them and you're saying, okay, if we make it tough on Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart is getting guarded by the center, so Cat is getting guarded by a wing, so he's not really pulling the center out because they don't really fear Josh Hart knocking down threes, and Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, their shooting could be hit or miss, so they feel very vulnerable. And honestly, I'm sorry, I just do not trust Cleveland. I just watched Boston pretty much run over them like it was nothing a couple days ago, and that was with Jayson Tatum in his second game back. So I'm not as much of a believer in Cleveland just because. And then I hate to be that guy. I just feel like James Harden is just, we're going to get to the playoffs and it's going to get a game 6 or game 7, a must-win game, and he's going to probably fold. So I just feel like Boston just has just as good of a chance to make it out the East. And if you add a top 7 player when he's healthy in Jayson Tatum, how can you not pick this team to make it out the East? Or how can you not see a world in which that can happen? Because I feel like people felt like they had a chance to do that with just Jaylen Brown. They didn't need Tatum, So it's going to be very interesting. I am really excited. I feel like the NBA has been really entertaining recently, especially some of the games that's been going on. I mean, I watched I watched the Nuggets versus the Thunder the other day. And what an MVP matchup between Jokic and SGA. I mean, SGA, to me, I think solidified his MVP in that game right there. I mean, he completely took over. He hit clutch shots, hit the game winner. He had an uphill battle. He basically was playing with no center. There was no Hartenstein, no Chet, and other guys was missing. No J-Dub, no Caruso, and he found a way to win, even amongst his team like Jalen Williams and Lou Dort, kind of doing some dumb shit towards the end of the game that almost cost him the game, So to see SGA overcome that, I feel like watching him play, he made all the right reads. He passed out of, double teams, and with, the driving kick, he did a very good job at finding the open shooters. And those guys, Jalen Williams had hit like 7 threes. SGA had like 30-something points. And he won the game, and I feel like he overcame a lot in that game because, especially with the way that first quarter was looking, Aaron Gordon had like 19 points in the first quarter. He went absolutely crazy, and they just kept attacking the paint because there was no rim protection. So it's been really good hoops recently. And then we have Bam Adebayo score 83 points, and it's caused a lot of a stir. First, I just want to say congrats to Bam Adebayo. 83 points, no matter how hard, no matter how you get it, is very, 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 very difficult to do, and whatever. But it's kind of led to a huge kind of conversation about the game and whether people felt like it was a fair 83. How did people feel about it? Boom, 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 boom. My thought on Bam's 83 points and just, a lot of critiques about it is I 100% can understand the critiques of it. I can. I do feel like at a certain point you could tell that Bam was definitely chasing it, and it was a conscious effort to see, okay, let's get him as high, as many points as humanly possible. The Heat were fouling to try to extend the game as long as possible. It was, he was kind of like, I don't want to say foul baiting, but he was definitely, like trying to get fouls, get to the free throw line. He shot 43 free throws. I mean, my God, but he had it going. I think the main thing that makes me not really kind of look at it and critique it as much is, one, he had it going early. You have to put yourself in that position to even get 83, and he put himself in position to get that way early on in the game where he had like 30 points in the first quarter. He was on fire. He was killing Alex Sarr, and he played very well. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes, even if it is a bit shameless, screw it. If the Wizards aren't good enough to stop you, then go get it. I have no malice or ill will towards Bam Adebayo for going for it, because why the fuck not? You know what I mean? I feel like Bam Adebayo is a player where, no offense to him, I think he's a great player, but there isn't really much more that he's going to do in his career that I think will top 83. I don't see Bam as a number one option anywhere in terms of scoring. I don't think he's going to be a 30-point per game scorer. He hasn't been that his whole career. He's probably been, even at Bam's peak, I feel like Bam has usually just been a 20, 10, and 4 guy. He can play great defense. He can score the way he scores. He can rebound well. He can defend. That's about it. He's a great number 2 option if you have an alpha. That's what he was when Jimmy Butler was there. So it's not surprising to see. So it is. I said it. It wasn't surprising. I said it. So it is very surprising. Even when I read it, I'm like, Bam Adebayo, the one that got 83. Because who would have thought that? Like, I would have never guessed Bam Adebayo would be the one to get 80 plus. I would have put that probably more on like Steph, especially in his prime. I think I could have seen SGA doing it now, especially if he got into a game and was smacking threes. Shit, I think Wemby could get 80. You know what I mean? I think Jokic, if he was selfish enough in terms of wanting to score, I think he could probably fuck around and get 80. You know what I mean? Bam Adebayo would not have been my choice to be the NBA player to get 80. But I gotta respect it, man. 83 points is very difficult to do. And like I said, he had it going early, and he played his way into a position to where, hey, it's very reasonable for him to get 80 plus. So why not go get it? You know what I mean? I feel like it's good for the league to have a player do that. You know what I mean? And I guess I get it. I don't feel like it was in the flow of the game. They could have easily took Bam out way earlier than the end of the game after he got 83, and the Heat would have been in no jeopardy of losing the game. But sometimes it's cool to just see cool shit in records happen. You're not going to see 80 points every season. That just doesn't happen. I still will marvel if a nigga gets 60 and 70. Shit, even 50, 40 to me is still like an extraordinary game. But this nigga got 80. He got 80 plus, bro. Like, that is crazy. So I tip my hat off to Bam 100%. Well deserved. He played very well. And yeah, I'm very embarrassed to be from the DMV and the Wizards embarrass us like that. That's fucking ridiculous. Wizards got to step it up. It is funny because I keep trying to convince myself that once LeBron retires, I'm going to be a Wizards fan. And that one, I got to postpone that for a couple seasons. I'm not going to lie. I have to hold off on that for a little bit. But that is it for the NBA, man. A lot of good NBA stuff is happening. It's definitely kicking up this season. NFL free agency. Free agency's been kind of lit. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of moves have been happening. I want to just kind of start off with my team. This kind of probably the biggest thing that I've been kind of just reading and everything like that. How I've been feeling about what Pittsburgh has been doing in free agency. I will say Pittsburgh has definitely gotten better as an overall team in terms of who we have picked up. We picked up Jamel Dean, Rico Dowdle, Asante Samuel. We picked up Cameron Johnston, Darnell Savage, and we got a trade for Michael Pittman Jr. I would say the Jamel Dean pick, I think we definitely needed help in the secondary. I feel like that was good, and I'll also take Darnell Savage. I hated to see Kenneth Gainwell go because I feel like he was such a vital part of our offense last season. And I thought his skill set, especially as a receiving back, was something that I feel like added an extra thing to Pittsburgh's offense last year that we definitely needed. So replacing him with Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle had a good year last year, so I'm not super mad at it. But I think for me, I just look at it and I'm just like, I just feel like the dynamic receiving ability of Kenneth Gainwell really probably would still be beneficial for Pittsburgh. And now you have Rico Dowdle, who I feel like is kind of more of a power back. So I'm kind of like, that's kind of like Jaylen Warren to me a little bit. Like, there's not really much difference between him and Jaylen Warren. I mean, you probably can compare, wiggle and speed or whatever. But, I mean, these are two guys who I think their main skill set is running the ball down the team's throat. And I feel like it's not, you're kind of getting one and the same with those two. Maybe one is better than the other. But it's to me, I just really felt like I really would have liked to have brought Kenneth Gainwell back. I don't know why we didn't, but that's neither here nor there. I do like Michael Pittman. I think he's a good receiver. I think him and DK as a wide receiver tandem, it could be interesting, especially because I think those are two talented guys. I just feel like for me, I remember looking at a lot of Steelers draft predictions and draft boards, and it's always been a concern of a point of concern is to get receiver help. So Pittsburgh was a lot of the mock drafts I was seeing was, hey, they might Jordan Tyson, a wide receiver, very talented guy, could probably drop to Pittsburgh due to injury concern, but he's really talented, like almost probably the most talented receiver in the draft, but will probably fall because of injury concerns. So I hope that us not getting I'm hoping that us getting Michael Pittman Jr. does not steer us away from getting a young talent that he could be, because I think that you lose absolutely nothing by picking him up, even at the spot that we are, if he's as talented as everybody says he is. So overall and everything like that, I'm not as mad at the free agent moves, right? Like I think in free agency we've picked up and addressed certain things on the team that needed help and concerned, and that were points of concern for this team. My biggest thing is just that we don't know what the quarterback situation is. A lot of people have been kind of saying that the big move for us in terms of quarterback is for us to go with Aaron Rodgers again. I don't want Aaron Rodgers back. I don't think he played bad. I just feel like for me, the main thing we're missing in Pittsburgh, at least for me as a fan, is there's no plan of how we're going to have a long sustained couple of seasons of success, of real competitive football. It kind of feels like we kind of just go in each year like, how can we compete this year? And then we go into next year saying, what are we going to do to put ourselves in position to compete? And when you're trying to kind of build a roster each year in and out to give you the highest probability to win, just enough games to make the playoffs or just to go 500, you're not really building a culture of winning, because there's nothing there that says, hey, we have this consistently every year that is leading us to have consistent success year in and year out. And a lot of that comes from the lack of quarterback play. We haven't put ourselves in a position to get good quarterback play because every guy that we've been bringing in is like a 1-year rental. There's no continuity each year at the QB position. It hasn't been for a long time. So I'm just kind of worried about what's the direction at quarterback now, because yeah, we can kind of get better at all these other positions and look at the team and say, okay, but I feel like Pittsburgh is kind of just doing enough to build a team that, yep, we're going to win enough games that we're going to probably beat up on bad teams. We might fuck around and beat a team that might be a wild card team here and there. But once we play upper level contenders, we're going to get wiped off the field and embarrassed. So I think for me, I'm just kind of wondering, what is the plan of, hey, this is what we got cooking up today for the next 4 years straight, barring any crazy injuries or anything bad happening to the team. We have 4 years. We have a 4-year window of very competitive high level football. And I just don't really see that plan, because we keep putting old ass QBs in who's going to come into a situation where the infrastructure of the team, it isn't half bad. You know what I mean? It's not perfect, but it's not half bad. You have a quarterback who just generally can only do but so bad, because they're not going to put the ball in harm's way, or they're going to just game manage the shit to death and just do enough to not lose the game and let the defense kind of win. To me, it's like, it's just not sustainable in terms of trying to compete for a championship. I'm kind of tired of seeing that all the time. So I'm kind of more curious as to, if Aaron Rodgers comes back, that basically just says this year's a wash in terms of that plan of sustained success kind of being there, right? I think even if we had got Malik Willis, because he's younger, I can kind of see, hey, if Malik Willis kind of pans out, this is a position in football at the quarterback in which, okay, If he's getting better and we keep building the infrastructure around him to get better and better, we keep getting him weapons. We build our offensive line. We build a solid defense and give him weapons. Oh shit, we actually have a window in which we're actually going to be a competitive football team year in and year out. But when you keep going for these old ass QBs who are on their last legs or don't got much juice and everything like that, and they're very, very limited, all you're doing is basically just saying we're just trying to survive the year. And I'm kind of just tired of having to survive the year. I was already okay with let's be bad for a year or two because there's at least something there where I can kind of cling to that says, okay, if we're bad next season and we go 4-13 and we get a top 3 pick so we can actually be in the running to get an actually really good young QB in, that would give me hope as a fan because I'm like, okay, if he comes in and he develops and he turns out to be well, now we have an open championship window because he's young, rookie deal. We can give him an infrastructure and all this stuff is like that. He's getting better, so now we're actually able to compete for a long period of time. We're not able to do that in Pittsburgh because we don't have good quarterback play, and we don't even know who our quarterback is this year. So I just don't know what the plan is. You know what I mean? For Mike McCarthy, maybe to save his job or whatever, yeah, he's okay with 9-8 in making a wild card game and just winning the division, and that's it. For me as a fan, I'm tired of seeing that year in and year out because it's gotten us absolutely nowhere. We can't even win a playoff game. We can't even be competitive in a playoff game. So why keep doing it? I just don't get it. So as much as I don't, as much as I am weary about it for Pittsburgh, whatever the quarterback decision is, I want them to go in a direction that says, hey, it might suck this year, maybe even the year after that. But the years after we kind of get out of this kind of tanking situation or whatever, this is when we're going to start to see, hey, we're putting the pieces in place to where now, okay, we're starting to build this up. Now our championship window is the next 4 or 5 years. So I just hope that Pittsburgh knows what they're doing. I would not have been mad at Malik Willis. I probably would have even considered, I would even consider letting Will Howard rock out. Like, what do we have to lose, really? But I don't think it does the Steelers any benefit to bring in Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers back. It just does nothing for the team and the franchise in order to sustain a level of greatness. Was there any other free agent moves? I really felt like, damn, that was pretty good. The Ravens backing out of the Max Crosby trade and getting Trey Hendrickson instead. I thought it was interesting. I really kind of, as a Steelers fan, I would have preferred them get Max Crosby just because I feel like the deal probably would have ended up hurting them more than it probably would have helped them. Not because Max Crosby is a bad player, but I just don't know how much high level, and I'm talking about elite level football he has left. Maybe a year or two. Like a year or two of really elite football left because he's kind of getting up there in age. They gave up 2 first-round picks, so they sacrificed a lot to get him, in my opinion, and would have took on a bigger contract. I feel like them getting Trey Hendrickson, that's a good piece. You know, I feel like he was probably one of the upper echelon free agents, of course, and now he's staying in the same division. He's staying in the same division. Yeah, he used to be on the Bengals. Now he's on the Ravens, and he might come out with something to prove. So I do think the Ravens do have other flaws in their roster, but I mean, you added Trey Hendrickson after backing out of the thing with Max Crosby. Can't really go too much wrong. I just seen Kyler Murray sign with the Vikings. I think that's going to be interesting. I think, I feel like Justin Jefferson is going to get really good quarterback play out of somebody. Because I feel like it sucks to watch Justin Jefferson's prime almost be wasted because he doesn't have quarterback play. J.J. McCarthy, he did not do very well last year. And, I wouldn't say the one time because Kirk Cousins played well when he was there, but they traded away a guy that absolutely killed, or they let go of a guy that absolutely killed for Justin Jefferson last year, 2 years ago with Sam Darnold, and he left the team and won the Super Bowl. So, I like that for Minnesota. I like Malik Willis going to Miami. I feel like for Miami, they owe to a lot of money. At least you're putting yourself in a position where you can compete. I'm not mad at teams for saying 9-8 is good enough, especially when these are teams that haven't accomplished too much in a recent time, or haven't been in that exact kind of purgatory for a long period of time, you can afford to just say, hey, let's just be good enough to make the playoffs. Atlanta's a team like that. Them getting to it, I think that might put them in a position where they're saying, hey, the division's wide open. Carolina won the shit last year. So, it's good to see teams kind of put in the pieces together that says, hey, we just at least want to be competitive. I think the NFL comes in a better place when teams are saying, hey, we just want to go out there and play and get a group of guys that play hard. You know what I'm saying? And of course, there's always going to be a team or a handful of teams that are just bad, and they're like, hey, we are trying to just get the top pick in the draft so that we can find our guy at QB or whatever the position is. So I'm not mad at it. I think Mike Evans to the Niners is interesting. I think talent wise and production wise and what it could be there, I love the move. It's just the Niners are such an injured team and they're picking up such an injured player. And it's like, damn, I don't know how this is going to look. But besides that, NFL free agency has definitely been lit for sure. It's definitely been fun to just kind of keep up with it and kind of see how these guys are going to kind of fit in their new roles and in their new teams. So I'm excited, man. Football sometimes feels like it's a year-round thing, just in terms of news and what's going on around the NFL. So it's definitely fun to see. What's next? I think that's pretty much everything for this episode. Damn, I thought I had a lot more. Community Q&A. Damn, almost forgot about that. Ha 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 ha. This one comes from my homeboy Justin. Shout out my man Justin. He has asked me most favorite rapper, least favorite, one that grew on you, overrated, underrated, and GOAT. My favorite rapper, most favorite rapper / the GOAT to me is Kendrick Lamar. That everybody knows that. My least favorite, I don't think I have a least favorite. In terms of that, there's a lot of rappers I don't like, so I think I could probably just say one. Sexy Red. I don't think she's talented, really. I think she definitely has a bop or two that I think, just on some ignorant, turn the brain off, just I'm in a party, just whatever shit I fuck with. But for the most part, I find her music to be absolutely awful, just being honest, and I just don't think she's that good of a person. One that grew on you. This is an interesting one. One that grew on me. I have to think about this one. I got to come back to that one. One that grew on me. I got to come back to that one. Overrated. Who's an overrated one to me? I hate to say it, guys. Wale. I really am not really a fan of him musically. I think I can acknowledge like what he's done, especially in around our area, around the area that I'm from. He has some of the biggest R&B, rap, collab, ballads, whatever you want to call it. He's like the king of that. But to me, I just find his music to be extremely boring. I feel like I do not get hyped listening to his music. I just feel like it's a snooze sometimes listening to Wale. I'm gonna just be honest. Underrated. Underrated's interesting. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of guys who I think are extremely underrated. I would say Mike. I'm a huge fan of Mike. I think Mike has, if you look at his discography, I think for the past 7-8 years, he has dropped some of my favorite albums in a long time. And he's abstract, so I'm pretty sure that's why he doesn't get the flowers that I feel like he should. But Mike is definitely one of them ones. One that grew on me is really interesting. I'm really trying to think of one that I'm really like, hey, I really did not fuck with, bro, and now I kind of do. Maybe I'll answer that one next time, because I'm drawing a blank right now. And if I feel like the moment I turn this episode off, I'm gonna be like, him. I don't know, but yeah, that's it. So for me, I would definitely say underrated for sure, Mike. I think Mike is definitely one of them ones. That is it for today's episode, man. Absolutely have fun recording this one. I'm super happy to be back and posting just new yaps, man. That's all a nigga want to do is yap. If you guys like this episode, man, please leave a like on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or even YouTube if you're listening there. Follow the show on Instagram because, like I said, I'm trying to grow a little bit more content on there. So follow the page at in the mind of Dame. Follow me on socials at that xboyxdame. I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one, man. Peace.